Today on Everyday Injustice, we bring back Doreena Durbin, whose work on meditation in prison in Texas. We interviewed her back in October on that, and it's an amazing story. And we have joining us Doug, who was incarcerated for a number of years, and he went through the program and swears by it. So, welcome to the show, Doug, and welcome back, Doreena.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So, Doug, maybe give us a little bit of your background by way of introduction.
Sure. So I am a former incarcerated person in the state of Texas. I actually am I guess you could say, a slow learner of the right way to do things. I was in and out of incarceration three different times. So for a combined total of 8 years, I did in prison in Texas. Not any of those too horrifically long, about 2 to 3 year stint. And it started back in 2011. And I was released this last time in 2023. And through that experience, from the very first day that I walked into a jail cell in Harris County, in Houston, um, from the time that I walked out of TDCJ, which will definitely be for the last time, um, I um, I went through a transformation, and a lot of that, a significant amount of that transformation was cultivated by meditation, by learning how to meditate, um, and using the techniques that come with that to really ground myself, center my life, and find really, not to turn this into a religious topic, but to find God as I know God, as I understand God. Um, I've recently heard somebody refer to praying as talking to God, and meditating as the technique for listening to God. And man, I have to tell you that there couldn't be anything further from the truth of that. I did a lot of talking when I was younger. I knew everything, right? And everything was going to be my way. And through the course of meditation, I've learned how to listen. And man, does God have a lot to say to all of us individually if we just shut up, um, go within, and listen. It's all there for us to learn.
Yeah, and I think that's an important lesson. We all knew everything when we were young, and then we suddenly realized that we actually don't know anything. Um, as I keep trying to explain to my kids. Dorena, I think it'd be worthwhile having you kind of introduce yourself again for those who didn't watch the first podcast, and talk to us about your book and how you came upon meditation as kind of a solution to the problem of incarceration.
Well, I have been meditating for 45 years and started teaching about 40 years ago. And one of my first experiences of teaching was supposed to be at Stateville Penitentiary in Illinois. That was where the Blues Brothers was filmed. Jake, I think his name is. And I was supposed to start a program there back in the early to mid 80s, and it didn't happen. But the desire stayed with me all that time. The warden was very interested in me beginning the program, but the state of Illinois, back in those days, or anybody, weren't as receptive to meditation. Today, everybody seems to have more of an understanding of it. So I have taught in medical school, teaching physicians, surgeons, medical students. I've taught in all kinds of venues and have been around, even taught in India, believe it or not, to Indians who brought meditation to this United States. So there's been a lot of experience I've had, but I have always had that desire, deep desire to go back to the prisons. And when the opportunity presented itself in 2019, I jumped at the chance. And so since then, I've been at the prison right near Dallas. It's very close to Dallas. And it's been very rewarding for me. I've done many different things in my life, but that one has been the most, I have to say, it's the best program I've ever taught at because these guys are really receptive. They want to change, and I'm helping them to learn new skills of paying attention to their inner guide and when and what's a perfect place to meditate except for all the distractions and the noises. But there's always that time and space in somebody's day where you can sit down, lie down, and do this. And it's just been a very wonderful experience for me. I've learned a lot from Doug as well as other inmates. And so, yes, I that's how I began, and I'm going to continue it as long as I'm living in Texas.
So, in your book, you sent me a copy of chapter 24, which talks about the personal experiences of incarcerated folks, and is featured in that the name D. And so Doug kind of talk about, how you came across meditation and how it really helped change you.
Well, meditation has for many years been on the back burner of my mind, on my little to-do list of things to check out. It has for years and years, just because I grew up or I came into adulthood living in Seattle. Back in the 90s and the late 80s. And so, I was hip to alternative techniques for everything. And meditation was never really looked upon as being too fringe and too unusual back then. It's just nothing I ever really engaged in. And so to fast forward, I'm in prison, this time, I think for the second time, um, in Texas. And I thought, well, I'm here again. So what am I going to do for the next so many years? And at that point, I was under the impression and direction from my lawyer that I would be incarcerated for a bit of time because this was my second offense. So I thought, well, what am I going to do with my time? I'm kind of a planner. I have to have things accomplished almost every day. So I'm not going to sit around in a day room and watch TV and, love my prison job that I'm assigned to. This was about me, about growth, about moving to the next level. And I had really been blessed with the opportunity to do that by being incarcerated, where I'm much more in control of my time and what I do with it. I've been void of distractions, which I'm easy to latch onto. So I decided that I was going to really understand, again, not to make this too religious, but for me, it was about understanding God, but really having God identify themselves. If they're really there, they had to prove themselves to me. And I didn't think that that was really too much to ask in today's day and age where everything has to be proven. Not just about trust, but more about that faith thing. I know he's there. It's not like I believe he's there, so I'm going to go with that. Um, and so I decided to look at different religions as well because Christianity just wasn't quite making it. It's ingrained in me. Although I grew up Christian and I didn't just refrain from it. It hadn't grabbed me the way I was seeing other people, especially in Texas, get grabbed by the Holy Ghost. So I was at a unit where it was run by a very conservative a right-wing warden, and she wanted, I could tell, a religious program to be completely focused on Christianity, and I knew what my civil liberties were for religion, and so I approached her and said I was going to I was going to find a Buddhist organization that would come in and teach Buddhism to those who wanted to learn Buddhism. And she, of course, had no right to say no. So I began that pursuit. I was in a town about 2 hours away from the Dallas metro area. So I wrote to every Buddhist temple I could find an address for in Waco and Dallas and all around that area. And nobody responded. I wrote to every Buddhist temple to ask them if they had a monk or somebody who could come teach Buddhism to us inmates. And I was surprised. I didn't get a single response, not even a no thank you. So in somewhat of a bit of desperation, I went to the next level and I just decided to write to organizations, people, whatever, who looked like they had sort of an Eastern religion approach to finding God. There was a Samadhi meditation and retreat center. It was actually called a Samadhi uh, corporate retreat center and meditation in Palestine. And so I wrote to them and said, look, does anybody there happen to know some Buddhism? You can maybe come, you're not that far away. Can you come teach us about Buddhism? And I actually got a response from this woman who herself was an inmate, a former incarcerated person. And she said, yes, David Browning will be happy to come and talk to you all. He led the center and 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 talk to you. So he came and he talked to a group of us that had met, and he said, look, I'm not here to teach you Buddhism. This really isn't about throwing another dogma religion on you. He said, what I would really like to do is teach you how to meditate, because that by far will take you where you want to go. And he had a particular meditation that he did that is one of the most difficult ones to master, and it's called samadhi meditation. Samadhi is where you go into meditation thinking of nothing, not using any type of instrument or tool to get into meditation, like, staring at a burning candle or incense or chanting. It wasn't about any of that. It was about clearing your mind, completely clearing your mind, and being able to sit in a state of non-being, a human, and just letting your mind and your brain have a little rest from whatever's on its mind. And it was very hard to do, but within a year we had accomplished that. So I went into a samadhi meditation for the first time, and I went into emptiness, is what it's called, where there's nothing. All around me, there's absolutely nothing, but I was embraced by everything that's real. And through that experience, I learned about everything that there was to learn. And I came out of that with a completely different sense of peace, of inner peace and joy and understanding. And I knew at that point that I had finally listened to God, and He had a lot to say. Um, and I mean, geez, from that moment on, I definitely became an advocate of meditation. Learned all about other techniques that really will rest your mind. And probably the one thing that I'd say that incarcerated folks have in common across the board, across race and gender and all of that, is that you have a racing mind, a monkey mind there that you're trying to pacify, that you're trying to tame. And you can't do that on your own. You can't do that by reading any kind of a dogmatic religion. You've got to do it by figuring out how to rest your mind and your brain, and just becoming calm and centered. And that was my goal from that point on, was to further that and advance that. So a couple years later, when I'm back incarceration again for the third time, there was a posting that there was a new meditation class being formed by a person that was local that wanted to teach meditation. And I knew that just the path and the journey that I was on, I was destined to be at that unit at that time to meet Doreena, who just further changed my life, um, and further inspired me and motivated me to understand that meditation can heal and can help, especially those who are incarcerated, who really struggle with that monkey mind.
So let me start with this because you describe in the book, that you had this internal voice that had become angry and desperate scream, and and this process really changed you from the inside out. Is that what you would describe it as?
That's a good description, yes.
So, I mean, how did it change like your worldview and kind of your mentality as you're serving this time?
Well, I can remember, so this warden that I was telling you about, this conservative warden, religious conservative warden, she at first was very hesitant, I guess, to see this Buddhist religious class take place. She distanced herself from it, let it happen, of course, because she legally had to. But within the year, seeing what was being produced from that, she could sense and feel and see inmates who had inner peace and were content and therefore became compliant, um, obedient, to deal with. And what warden wouldn't want a prison full of obedient, compliant, incarcerated folks? So that brought her attention to us, and she ended up really embracing David, and he became a very popular and common feature within the religious programming of that community. And I remember her stopping us once when we came out of class, and she said, "What is it with you all? You are all so peaceful and content coming out of that." And I knew then that she could see the byproduct, the results of meditation. Um, and so that, in itself is something that I've noticed and seen in other people when I go into these classes, especially at the latest class, at the latest unit that I was on with Doreena. There are several of my uh, fellow incarcerated who were my neighbors. I had encouraged them to go to Doreena's class, and they've stayed in it, and they've completely transformed. And, I mean, every time I see them, they're just so happy and grateful that I introduced them to Doreena. They think it's all Doreena's doing, which of course most of it is, but you needed an amazing teacher to guide you and to transform you. But the reality of it is they found it. They found what really can work and move anybody from a state of anger and frustration and nervousness and despair to that place of just contentment and peace.
And it just seems like, even if the warden's skeptical, she sees the results. She wants to have folks incarcerated that are peaceful and calm. So it seems like that's gonna win over any warden pretty quickly.
I've actually had guards ask me to teach them because they can see the difference of the incarcerated men when they come out of there, and there's like a camaraderie that takes place and a ripple effect throughout not just the incarcerated men, but also the guards and other people that work there and serve their roles. So that's for me is very satisfying to see that and to feel that, for them to be able to sense it. And
And
so
would you say that Doug's experience is typical of what you saw?
Doug had a little more of, I want to say, understanding about it than some of the other guys have. But this was their first experience. At least he's had other experiences, so it was really easy to speak with him about it. Um, some of the other guys, though, that never had any introduction to it in the past, and you know who I'm talking about, a couple of them there are just transformed. They're just amazing. And I'm able to keep in touch with them through email system. There's a four or five of them. Doug was one, but he's off of that now. But it's good to know because they still give me that feedback of how they're doing, and they know I care. I care. I'm there to help them see that goodness within themselves and know they can change their lives. They can get out and, we talk about their life skills and different things they can do to keep up and continue to meditate if they can, in and out of prison. And they can teach their families and loved ones as well. Doug wants to come back and teach. I don't know there or some other prisons, but that's what I want. I want to see this expand in not just this prison, but all around the world. Sorely needed, really, really needed. Yeah. So yeah, he's mentioned more than anybody in my book, known as D. So you guys have, yeah,
We cracked the code.
yeah.
Um, so, Doug, describe what it was like to meet Doreena. And obviously, you were in a unique position in that you were kind of already exposed to meditation even before you met her, but clearly, the relationship that you guys have developed kind of transcends that, right?
Oh yes, yeah. I obviously the my experience with meditation going into her class was a little bit deeper than experience anybody else had with it. So I was able to talk to her and to relate to her on a level that showed me more of a steady practitioner than somebody who was curious to meditation or somebody who had done it a few times. I was already practicing it uh, faithfully. It was just that I hadn't taken it to the next level, and she has allowed me to do that. So my connection with her was certainly teacher to student, and it is today, and it always will be. I mean, this woman has devoted 45 years of her life, right, to teaching meditation. Um, and she's the real deal. I mean, this isn't somebody who just wanted to write a book and make some money or be perceived as somebody who knows her stuff. She really does know her stuff, and so I've been blessed because I asked for it. I've been blessed that she's come into my life to take me to that next level. And then, in some sense, I also taught her because she didn't know a lot about samadhi meditation. I was under the impression through David Browning that samadhi meditation was the meditation. It was the best way, like the only way that you could really just get into enlightenment. It's about enlightenment, becoming an enlightened being. And it happens like that. He just snap his fingers and go, it's just going to happen like that. And so I thought that was it. I mean, that's the one-stop shop. And so learning from her and when her understanding her authentic experience that she didn't know that much about it, I thought, well, okay, maybe it isn't just that samadhi meditation, that there's other meditation and techniques that can still get you there for those who maybe can't really slow their brain down. And most of Americans can't slow their brain down, get away from their digital, facade to actually shut down. So there are other techniques to that. So she was teaching me that. And then I was giving her information and I guess teaching her about samadhi meditation and what that experience was like for me. So that was kind of cool that I became somewhat of a teacher and she the student. So, we had that mixture going on and that just formulated this beautiful friendship that has transcended out into the free world. And now that I'm out in the free world, I'm finding out she's even more phenomenal than I thought she was.
I learned from a fully realized spiritual master who in 1977 came from, well, actually, he was born in India but lived in South Africa, Guru Rajananda Yogi. And he started organizations around the world. The one I joined was the American Meditation Society. And we have practitioners and teachers all around the world now, throughout the US and other countries.
Does meditation have to be a religious experience?
No, no, not at all. It's funny because what happens is your awareness increases. When you first start it, you think, okay, I'm just going to learn how to meditate, and that's fine. People can do that. They do that all the time, like in yoga studios. But I always describe those as more or less a relaxation technique. This one is very deep, very personal. It gets into your soul and the awareness that is in that you develop or unfold to, shall I say. We all have awareness, but meditation increases that your awareness so that if you get, for example, I think one of the gifts that I've learned and I have taught the incarcerated individuals is that the first second that you get that fight or flight syndrome where you're angry at somebody and you want to go at them, and then all of a sudden your heart starts palpitating, and you start to get angry and you want to go at them. And then what this does, it helps you to recognize that pinpoint when that can happen. Then there's breathing exercises that you can do to prevent that. And it's just like your awareness, what the outcome's going to be if you get, especially in a prison, because you may wind up getting more punishment, right?
hmm
More years. So that's one of the blessings of having a program where you're learning those kinds of skills. And I mean, it happens all the time. But yeah, so I've been meditating 45 years, but there are instances every day where you can be triggered, anything political or anything in your life with your children or your spouse. And when those things happen, you want to have something you can go to say, okay, I want to be grounded here. I don't want to be up in the clouds and pretend like this isn't working. You have to do your practices, and you'll notice a huge difference in how you handle those things when those times, if they come along. There's just a major difference, and it makes your life better. You can tolerate more.
You know,
And oh, go ahead, Doug.
if I could kind of counter that, I don't really know how it could not end up being a religious experience, an experience where you really dive into the meaning of life and who you are and what you are and why you exist. Um, I don't know how it could not be that, because when you master, or at least get the skill and the techniques down of meditating, when you figure out and can discipline yourself to sit in a room in quietness, in a position, and close your eyes, or whatnot, or stare at the candlelight, uh, and sit and just sit in silence. When you've mastered that in terms of self-discipline, you're eventually going to go somewhere. You're going to do that enough. You're going to get so good at that that you're going to take that to the next level. And what is that next level? Well, I think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with that. Some, I guess, psychological scientist back in the 40s or 50s who had this, he built this pyramid of needs. Our first need is to eat and find shelter and security, and actually one of the needs is sex, and these carnal animalistic needs we all meet. And so the top one is more around kind of religion or enlightenment. And so when you're incarcerated, you get everything taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about how am I going to eat, how am I going to pay rent, or how am I going to get the kids to school, la 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 la. All that's taken care of on the outside. So you're there, all those basic needs are met. They might not be great, they might not be the best needs, but they are being met. So if you want to, you can then take that to the next level and say, that's all taken care of. I don't have to stress about that. Even my safety is taken care of. The guards are going to take care of me, right? Then I can focus on the next thing, and that is that sort of that level of enlightenment, finding out who you are, what you are, and why you are who you are. And when you dive into that, again, you're listening to that higher power, to God. And God has a lot to say to all of us if we just sit down, shut up, and focus on Him and relax a little. So I don't know how it cannot be a religious experience. If you're going to do it and you're going to do it long term, you are going to become an enlightened being. And my God, is that a great place to be? And it just changes your perspective about life in so many ways. When it came out of incarceration this last time, I'm still dealing with issues to of reentry. The reentry system is so unsupportive. Really, you get thrown out, and I can't find housing, and they can legally discriminate against housing, and nobody wants to hire me. But you're going to get it, Doug. You're going to succeed. Well, the only way that I succeeded was through meditation, where I could just calm down, focus on the fact that I will get through this. And nobody is taking my inner peace and my joy away from me because I've already found it and I'm not letting go of it.
So, your last point kind of relates to my last question, which is, this is primarily a criminal justice reform program here. And so, you kind of allude to it that, this helped you with reentry. Obviously, it helped you deal with the prison setting. And also, I would imagine, for all the folks that are incarcerated that have severe trauma from their childhood and their upbringing and whatnot, that this is a way to find inner peace. How can the prison system kind of utilize programs like these in order to, do a better job of helping people get back to their lives?
Mhm. Well, um, I recognize that, nobody grows up and is inspired to work in the prison system. That's just not something that anybody really, I think, wants to do. Nobody really wants to hang out with a bunch of prisoners all day and tell them what to do and keep them from doing this or that. And look at how pitiful or how depressed they are. Nobody wants to do that. But the reality of it is we needed a workforce that will be employed in that industry. So you get people doing that who just might not necessarily be inspired to do that. But in the state of Texas, in the Department of Criminal Justice, I've seen and I've talked to people in sort of that higher level who are great people and are inspired and encouraged by meditation. And I can tell that they want to see meditation incorporated and available more widespread than it is. They're just dealing with so many other essential critical needs. But there are people in the prison system in America, no doubt there have to be, who are smart enough and well informed enough to see this as a usable technique and one that will transform criminal justice. And when those people start to become louder and louder, vocal and vocal, I mean, and insistent that this idea, this concept of meditation be used in the criminal justice system, when those folks finally have a voice and their priorities are looked at, I can see change in it. But it's just a matter of having that focus become more prevalent and more vocal.
The one thing I wanted to share is that the meditation program I that I have at the prison is not based on, I don't teach religion because meditation is used in nearly every religion, just various forms of it. And so when I express that, it's an actual experience. It's not an intellectual kind of thing. It's an actual getting into your inner self And like Doug mentioned, shut your mind, or well, you can't stop thoughts. Thoughts are thoughts. We're all going to have thoughts, and that's the biggest barrier that people tell me, that when they first try to meditate and close their eyes, their mind jumps off to 1,000 thoughts and they just run one right after the other. So because I'm not teaching religion, I have a sense of freedom to teach them uh, meditation without getting stuck on ideology and differences. I look for the unity in the center of our being. I look for that in religion and with people around me. If I were judgmental and differentiated and said, oh no, you just have just one form. No, we are humanity with all different religions and forms. So I think it's important to have that sense of freedom, which is why I call my book Get an Inner Life, Meditate, Freedom is Found Within. And this gives them more of an opportunity to learn more about spirituality and their own inner guides, inner guru, let's call it that. And everybody learns different. Everybody learns in a different pace. It's not shoved down them and dogma, nothing like that. It's all, you take what you can get from it and you experience it throughout your life. And it depends on the individual. If somebody only wants to meditate once in a blue moon, that's their choice. They have free will. They can do what they want. If they would rather go off and learn um, Hinduism or Buddhism. And as a matter of fact, I have a Buddhist monk who is going to carry on my program after I'm gone. He's currently, you might have seen him in the news, he's leading a peace march from Dallas or Fort Worth, Texas, to Washington, D.C. They're walking. Monks are walking in January to Washington, D.C. A lot of news stories have been talking about him. So he'll be taking on my program when I leave. I have asked him if he would be willing to do that. He has agreed, so it will continue.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Doreena, for coming back to our show and sharing about your book, Get an Inner Life, Meditate, and your experience of 45 years of meditation and how it's helped incarcerated people. And Doug, thank you for sharing your story. I can tell that this is very personal to you. And it means a lot, and we get to see, how much of this inner strength starts to come out when you're able to tap into this.
I was just going to say, one of the motivations for me to do this wasn't just about helping get word out about Doreena's book, but I was hoping that my voice, my face, whatever, will be heard by someone who is incarcerated in the United States, who is sitting in their cell right now, feeling lonely, isolated and miserable, like there's no hope in the world, or a family member who knows somebody who is incarcerated, who is feeling like this, and they struggle with how can I help my loved one. Buying books on meditation. There's so many out there I read that are good. Using her book as one of many to read upon, and really understanding that there is the ability to really find inner peace and joy while you're incarcerated. And I hope somebody will be inspired and will feel hope by my words to you today. And I appreciate you giving the avenue of letting this be broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you.
Thank you. This has been Everyday Injustice. I'm your host, David Greenwald. Join us again next week for more tales from the injustice system.